Good evening, health advocates. Take two, we're back. We're talking about copper overload. Okay, why am I so passionate about minerals and why in particular copper? Okay, every day we talk about minerals which are deficient in. Everyone knows iron low is anemia. Everyone knows low iodine is poor thyroid function. If you're low zinc, it's mental health. Have you ever thought sometimes some minerals you can have too much of? And copper is one of them. And we're seeing an absolute explosion of women in particular with elevated copper. I'm going to talk about how you get too much copper. I'm going to talk about some good strategies how you can remove your copper. But I want you to come on a journey with me and actually have a good look at the symptoms you might have with excess copper. Okay, what are they? The first I want you to think of is fatigue, and I want to think about anxiety. Okay, how many of us have outbursts of anxiety? Now, this might be anything to do with menopause. It might be nothing to do with that time of month, but you are anxious and you don't know why. This is what copper does. Copper accumulates when you have too much estrogen. And you're going to go, well, I'm a woman, there's a bit of estrogen. The next reason why you might have too much estrogen, are you on the pill or have you been on the pill for long periods of time? That's a very synthetic estrogen. Did I choose to go on synthetic hormones like Premarin or really high dose HRT? That's a very heavy estrogen. Do I live my life surrounded by plastics or xenoestrogens? That's an external source. Do I spend my life dry cleaning products that have a lot of phthalates which increase estrogen? There's some examples of why you might have too much estrogen, but you can always check your estrogen level. However, I'll tell you right now, if you're estrogen dominant or you have a lot of estrogen, you will have a lot of copper. Now let's go on a journey what copper does. What copper does, it sits in your body and it blocks a really important cycle called methylation. Now, when methylation gets disturbed, it all of a sudden expresses a lot of genes. It's an epigenetic factor. So you're going to say, so what? Well, I'm going to bring you back to that so what factor when I started with anxiety. We're all born with different genetic SNPs. And anxiety, certainly, look at your parents. If some of your parents are a bit anxious, I dare say you've probably got one of the beautiful genes to promote anxiety. Well, copper's going to bring that out, guys. So what do you need to do? Well, the first thing is we've got to look at how do you lower copper? So in life, copper has a friend, and his name's zinc. So when you have too much copper, it really challenges your ability to maintain a good level of zinc every day. You might have someone with a perfect diet, whole foods, freshly organic grown vegetables, you still can have copper excess because your poor zinc every day is trying to compete with copper and it excretes itself out. Do you have a lot of white marks on your nails? Have you an increased number of superficial stretch marks, red or white? All of a sudden, have you got some pigment under your chin, under your arms? These are all symptoms and signs of where your zinc is now depleted. Let's all bring it back to anxiety. I said it's probably the number one reason, which is a type of depression. Okay, what are we going to do? Absolutely test, guys. How can you test for elevated copper? You can do a hair and mineral analysis. You know I love the OligoScan because it's convenient, it's simple, it's cheap. It checks the amount of minerals in your sweat that you sweat out every day. So what are we going to do? We have to give you zinc because obviously if copper's dominant, I have to replace the zinc that you're always losing and I have to give it its happy friend in life. So what zinc do I like? Well, obviously I spoke about depression and anxiety, and probably the number one we use now is a formula called Pyrrole Primer. It's a zinc dominant formula, and the reason word in there that you might have seen before is called pyrrole. Now that's one of those epigenetic things I said which comes out. Now pyrrole disorder is a form of anxiety, so that's why you can also go on and further research pyrrole disorder, and I'll have another live talk about it. But that's my go-to because it's got antioxidants, it's got zinc, and it's got a good dose of magnesium for calming. The other guys out there who go do testing, who also can have too much estrogen from plastics and low testosterone, a zinc plus is always a good start. And you'd have to get your dose fixed and discussed with one of the consultants the best dose for you. Okay, what about where I said copper blocks the methylation profile? Well, that happens at a mitochondrial level for fatigue every day. So it stops ATP being produced. Of course you're fatigued with copper overload because it stops you making good ATP levels. So what am I going to do? I'm going to give you a lot of energy support. I'm going to suggest things like coenzyme Q18. There's a wonderful new product called NOS, which is going to boost the energy profile out there. What about a good liver detox? I love detox. We're bringing out a whole new detox program later in the year, which is based on driving a good liver function. So what do you have to do? Drink water alone for a good month. You have to have 1 or 2 poos a day. You have to eat whole foods, and of course you've got to sweat, okay? The fifth variable I'm going to throw in that, go on a liver support. I'm just picking up one I do like because it covers many of my second phase liver supports. My methylation, my oxidation, my conjugation, all to remove those heavy, nasty, accumulating byproducts that copper's going to do. Okay, so guys, I hope you've given an insight as to why I'm passionate about copper overload. I've told you how to remove it. Test it, remove it, and ask us anytime if you've got anxiety or fatigue and you think you might have excess copper. And I'll give you one peril. I was out the other day. Excess copper causes premature grey hair. Now, women, we don't want that, do we? When you see your girlfriend, you say, wow, mum didn't go that grey, that young. Go ask her to check her copper. Do her a favour. Okay, adios, have a great night, and catch you next week.